Hi and welcome back to another episode of the Canary Room. It's a little bit chilly in the room today, as you can probably see the moisture of my breath, and the cameraman, although you can't see him, is dressed up like he's ready for a North Pole expedition. Coming up on the show today, we're going to check in with the Fife hens. We'll look at our gradual conditioning of them, and we'll have the baths on them a little bit later. We're going to go round the room. We're going to look at the Norwich, we'll check in with the Red Poles, and especially for one of our viewers up in Scotland, Margaret, especially for you, we'll check in with the Reds as well. We'll also, at the back end of the show, meet the boys in the room, the cockbirds who will form the nucleus of the 2017 breeding programme. It's 12 months since we met the cockbirds, and only 4 of the 12 that we met are still in the room. More on that later. As always, sit back and enjoy the show. So I've already said it's bitterly cold in the Canary Room today. One of the things that will bring the birds into condition is the extension of natural daylight. I've got a full spectrum tube in the Canary Room which simulates daylight, and that will help bring the birds into condition. It's on a timer system, as we can see here, and that allows me to increase daylight by 15 minutes each week. Birds will come into condition around 11 and a half, 12 hours of daylight. Really, in the breeding season, you want 14 hours, but more of that later in the year. The cold won't stop the birds bathing, and it's another great way of bringing them into condition. The baths will go on in a minute, and we'll take a look at the Fife hens bathing. What you'll also notice is we've got all of the cages in the shed now, so with the Canary Room is almost back up to full speed. There's a few little bits still to do, a little bit of snagging to be done, but the birds are in the cages that the cocks are, at least, that they'll breed in, that they'll stay in for the breeding season, and the hens are at the levels that they're going to be. I'll pop the baths on now, but before I do, I wanted to just draw your attention to the water regime that we've got on at the moment. You'll notice in the bird's water, it's a greeny, yellowy colour, difficult to see through the blue. They've had their 5 days of intradine. This is now day 2 of the solution that we're giving them, which I'll show you in a second, to bring the increase in egg production hopefully this year. Never used it before, so it's untried, but I've heard a lot of good results about it. That's in the water for them now. What I will do when there's the intradine on the water is I won't give them baths, and I won't give them green food. Now I'm going to put some kale in for them too, which we'll see them pecking over. So enough talking, and let's see some action. The battle against mite is an all year round battle, even in these cold winter days. We've got the little puffer here. We know that we've bleached all of the cages through, we've cleaned them out, we've got in the nooks and crannies, the crevices, we've got the decorators caulking and tried to close as many as we possibly could. Mite will live on the birds, and we'll powder them and we'll treat them. Not sure whether I'm going to use ivermectin or frontline this year, haven't decided, but I will do in the course of the next week or so. They'll need that treatment before the breeding season gets into full swing. You can see, we know how this boy works, and you can see some of the gaps in the cages that I haven't filled yet, I have covered with this. I'm hoping that, we've bought a lot of birds in from different sheds. We bought Reds in, we bought Norwich in, we bought Fifes in, and those birds, however fastidious the keepers are, will inevitably carry different creepy crawlies on them, so they always get powdered when they come into the bird room. But I'll run that treatment through and try and keep mite at bay. The bane of every bird keeper. I'm yet to find a solution that, and I've tried them all, that I'm happy to stick with. So we'll keep looking, keep trying. We'll put the baths on now for the hens. As I say, even though it's freezing cold outside, the baths they'll all go into bath. And one of the important things to do, particularly at this time of year, is look at birds that don't bath. So even on the coldest days, if a bird doesn't bath, it can be a signal, not always, but it can be a signal that it's not quite right. Difficult in cages where there's 7 birds to pick up, because naturally their instinct will tell them, I've got to show myself, I've got to look like I'm okay. But we'll just keep an eye on them. So let's pop the baths on now. Nothing better to see a bird in a bath. So we know throughout the series of the Canary Room, we've talked about things that we pinch from the kitchen. Everybody watching the show, if you are making up Intradine solution, if you're making up the solution that we've got at the moment, in fact, anything that you need to put in the water, you can mess around with jugs and mixing and everything else, or you can just rinse out a 2-litre bottle of milk, make sure it's really, really well rinsed out. You can pour the exact measure that you need to, you can shake it to make sure it's all mixed. And it's great. It's absolutely great. Really, really, really useful. Hens are still bathing behind me. I'm getting soaking, so I'm going to move out of shot, and then we'll have a little look at the Norwich. We'll have a little look at the red poles, and especially for Margaret, we'll have a look at the reds. We haven't seen them for a while. We've got 2 pairs of Norwich in the Canary Room. Along with the red poles, they're the only birds in the room that are still together. So the cocks and hens are separated off with the reds, with the fifes. But with the Norwich, I've just left them together. And we know last year we had some challenges with breeding the Norwich, and they are difficult to breed. What I've wanted to do is just get them to pair bond. So I will separate them off. I'll move the cocks over to this cage at a later date. And I'll partition this cage off. It's one of the beauties of the cage configuration I've got in the Canary Room. There's 5 cages along here that can all open up or can be singled off into cages. And it's one of the things when you're planning your bird room, you really need to consider your cage configuration. Similar situation on the back wall. There's 5 cages and then there's a single block of cages behind me. Exactly the same scenario there. I can open them all up. I can open 2s up, I can open 3s up, depending on what we need at various different times of the year. One of the things that, as I say, really important to consider is that flexibility in your room. Norwich are looking in good nick. I'm hopeful. We know we've got a cinnamon carrying cock up here. We've got a dark buff cock here. I'm hopeful that we'll breed, a number of Norwich this year. Don't want to put a figure on it because there's only 2 hens and, we breed 4, we breed 5 Norwich to full maturity. I'd be happy with that. Let's have a closer look at them. Still one of my favourite birds in the room are these little ones, the red poles. We know we've just got 4 now, but 4 really good quality birds. I'm hoping this year that we'll have some success with them. We've overwintered them now with us. We brought them in late last year, and that may have had a part to play. I'm undecided as yet, to be fair, as whether I'm going to breed just the 1 pair in this flight cage, and whether I try and use some of the cages up here to breed the others. You don't have to make that decision now, but it's one that I will consider. I think, with all British finches, there's a chance that they'll get very, very territorial. So breeding 2 pairs in this cage, although it's almost 7 foot long, probably won't work, which is a shame. But I love the red poles. I think they're a real lovely addition to the room. So finally, around the room, before we meet the boys, we'll just check in with the reds. Now, remember in the last episode, that we thought that we may have had 3 hens and 2 cocks. We know now that we've got 3 cocks and 2 hens. See in the shot now that we've moved one of the cock birds away, and he's just down in the bottom of the cages of the shed. What we've done is we've put the hens into double cages just to get them that little bit fitter, to give them that little bit of exercise, and we've singled the cocks off next to them. Now I have pulled the bars back just a little bit, the dividers back here just a little bit, so the cock can see the hen from the other side. Way too early to contemplate breeding yet, but that will just enable them to bond while the hen gets nice and fit for the season. What I will probably do is put a divider in here in 2 or 3 weeks time as the Norwich start to come into a bit of condition, and I'll take the Norwich cocks, keep them in here and leave the hens with a double breeding cage. So for the time being, at least probably for the next 4 weeks or so, these hens will have double breeding cages, just to get that fitness, just to get that vigour. Really like the reds, a lovely addition to the room. Like many fanciers, or many bird keepers across the globe, when you've been in the hobby for as long as I have, you pick up little bits of things along the way, most of which you'll never remember you've got. So the move has reinvigorated me. It's made me open up some cupboards and look in things that I didn't know I had, and I came across these. I've got half a dozen of them. They really simple, just a plastic hoop which clicks onto the inside of the cage, and a little plastic cup in there. I've absolutely no idea what I bought them to use for. I've no idea what I'm gonna use them for. I may use them for grit, I may use them for a bit of egg food maybe in there, but they're a fiddly little thing and I really like them. So look out on future episodes of the show, because they're bound to be in some of the cages. Another handy element, and a relatively new addition to the canary room, is this chest here. Very cheap to buy from IKEA. It's plastic trays, keeps all the plastics in, so the nest boxes are in there, there's drinkers in there, just keeps everything together all in one place. So, I'm getting a bit sick and tired, as is my other half, of me going out and buying lots of stuff when I've already got it. It's all in here now, it's all in the room. So over the course of the season, whether it's egg food drawers, whether it's additional seed hoppers, whether it's perches, whatever I need, it's probably in these drawers. When we first started filming the show, this young boy was the very first bird that we met. He's one of 4 cockbirds from 2016 in the Fife stud that we'll use again in 2017. You can see now he looks a far better bird than he did in some of the footage if we look back into episode 1. We've seen in the episodes around advanced pairing that he's going to be a busy boy this year. We lost his son unfortunately a couple of weeks ago, but we have got his nephew who's bred directly out of his brother. Let's have a little closer look at him. Orange Ring 18, a variegated yellow cock, 2016 bred. The nephew of the bird that we've just met, which was Mauve Ring 28. A nice little bird this. We know that for 2017, fundamentally we've got light birds and dark birds. We've scrapped plans of having a clear line and a lightly variegated and variegated. So fundamentally it's lights and darks. We've already met the hen that this bird's going to go with. A really nice little short cock bird this. I like it genetically, very strong from that variegated line of mine. So I'm looking forward to seeing, assuming that the cock is fertile, what he produces for us this year. This is one of 2 sons, and therefore 2 brothers, that we've got in the room, bred out of a variegated yellow cock. Now the cock was bred in 2014, it was a green ring bird, a lovely bird. who didn't make it sadly through the molt this year. This is one of his sons, a very nice, very useful variegated buff cock. His other son will meet in a few moments' time, which is a clear bird. Again, a lot of quality in the bird. I think I'm going to use these birds sparingly. I've got a nice clear yellow hen to put this bird to, and it's very much with this bird and his brother as seeing whether that quality from the father comes through into the next generation of birds. We talked about it in previous episodes of the show. It's all well and good looking at the visual quality of birds and having lovely looking birds in the room, but ultimately it's about what they breed for you. I know the strength behind this bird. I know what it's got behind it in terms of quality. I just want to make sure that that quality continues to come through. This is one of 4 new cocks into the canary room this year. It's very, very unusual that for me. I would normally bring in 1, maximum 2 cock birds. This year we've refreshed the stud a little bit, added some more vigour into it hopefully, and what that will mean is it's unlikely that there'll be any more birds coming into the stud for 2 or 3 more years. This, as we know, very, very pleased to get this little variegated yellow cock. He's still got pins coming through in his head, not quite finished yet. A lovely little short bird, beautiful position, lovely wing carriage and a real roundness. He's in proportion. We think there's a possibility he may be a cinnamon carrier, so we'll use him with a couple of hens. If we've got no pink eyes in the first round, we may use him a little bit more broadly, but a really, really nice cock bird. Orange ring again, bred in 2016, orange ring 49. This little bird we met in the last episode, Mauve ring 63, we know he's a cinnamon carrier. We've got our hopes pinned on him this year to reinvigorate, restart the cinnamon line. We've gone very much back to the drawing board on that, as we know. And you can see his wings, he's picked them up a little bit, gets a little bit lazy with them every now and again. I think that's a condition thing, but I've seen him bouncing, I've seen him singing, he's eating well, he's bathing. He's in good form. Probably doesn't look his best at the moment, but when he gets on song, he's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful bird. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're due a break with the cinnamons this year. This little boy will give it to us. This little fella we met last year, Mauve ring 48, he's a ticked yellow cock. One of the reasons we kept him was for his real depth of colour. Now, for a number of episodes, he was part of the opening titles. He's been relegated since then. We didn't breed anything off him last year. Running with a clear buff hen and couldn't get the pair, although they bred in the first round, just couldn't get them straight and right. Good colour on this bird and well bred, an important part of the light and variegated line. This time of year, and it may sound, beginning or end of January we're coming up to now, it may sound ridiculous when I'm talking about 2018 and talking, as I'm just introducing you to the birds for 2017, of the birds that will form a part of 2018. This boy, last chance saloon for him. He has the colour, he has the quality, he has the pedigree. This year, if he doesn't produce for me, he'll be moved on from the breeding team. There's a chance, even if he does produce for me, he'll still make way. We'll see that there are 7 unflighted cockbirds, untried, untested, and 5 flighted birds, 4 of my own and 1 that I've bought in. I know the bird that I've bought in, the flighted variegated buff cock we've just met, breeds really nice birds. I know that the other cock birds that I've got are fertile and will breed, with one exception, and that's this boy. So, for this little fella, it's last chance for romance. We met his brother a little bit earlier, the variegated buff. This is orange ring number 2. Again, he was bred out of the variegated yellowcock, the green-ringed bird that we saw in episode 1 of the show. He's got lovely position, very similar to his father, this bird. He's a yellow, he looks slightly smaller, slightly tighter. He will go with one hen this year. I've got a nice hen for him to run with, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that produces. I'm going to use him sparingly, so I'll use him for 1 round. I'll take a look at the youngsters, and if the youngsters are of quality, he'll get a 2nd round. If not, I'll probably use the variegated yellow cock that could be a cinnamon carrier on his hen. So he's got 1 real chance in the birds room, and you might say, well, what's the point in keeping a cock bird if you're only going to run it with 1 hen for 1 round? And that's part of developing your pedigree line. That's part of developing your stud and birds. It's about a ruthlessness. It's about good care, good husbandry, but a ruthlessness when it comes to selection. He's retained because he's got quality, and I'd like to breed some birds off him. If the birds don't show that quality, and I'll be able to tell pretty much as they jump the nest, then he'll be used sparingly. And in September, when I do my selection, there'll be a question mark against this bird too. We're into the dark birds now, the dark cock birds, that will hopefully reinvigorate and re-establish my award-winning dark lines. This bird has a key role to play. He's the oldest cock bird in the shed, a 2014 bred green ring 11. Now, we'll meet his son in a moment, but this bird, you'll remember from episode 1, was best fife, best champion fife, best canary, and best exhibit and show at the Cheshire Classic. You can see he's belting out song. There's a real fitness here. Him and his son will have 3 yellow hens, 3 incredibly good quality yellow hens between them. I may even add the blue, which is a yellow hen, into the mix. There's 2 buff cocks, dark buff cocks in the shed. I'd normally have 4. This year there's just him and his son, and hopefully they'll do some damage. You could see at even 3 years old the shortness of that bird and how well it had retained its quality. It's fit now, let's hope it stays fit for the season and fills plenty of eggs for us. Here's his son, orange ring, 2016 bred, ring number 15. He's not as good as his dad visually, but he's bred out of an outstanding self-green yellow hen. Both parents are quality, and my hope and anticipation for this year is that this little fella will throw back to the quality of his father and produce a bird that will do well for me on the show bench. Either way, the young that are breed off this bird can go back to the young that are breed off his father. They'll clearly be related. And that's something, when you're looking at your selection of cock birds, why sometimes you'll retain a bird which maybe isn't as good visually as another. And that's how you develop a pedigree of birds, if the quality is broadly there. Of course, there's no point if the birds aren't of quality, but as you've just seen, this boy's father is a stunning bird, his mother is a stunning bird too, and I'm hoping that the quality comes through in some of his young this year. Another new addition to the shed, brought in from Gerald in late October time, orange ring 74, a heavily variegated yellow cock. See his tail's slightly damaged, probably when he was in the flight cages last week, just before we moved. Really nice, he's finished off nice, this bird. Could do with the width, but we know we've got a hen to pair with that. But the type, the side-on profile is really, really nice. Looking forward to seeing what he produces and the addition he gives, the strength he gives to our dark lines for 2017. The penultimate bird in Meeting the Cocks this year, orange ring number 9, another heavily variegated yellow. This is bred down from an Andy Roger bird. It's a complete outcross in the stud. So we've got a couple of green hens from Adam Kendall to reinvigorate the green line. This is a cock coming from Andy Roger. Everything else is based on Gerald Spencer's lines. Came from a good friend, Graham Holdsworth. A nice cock bird this. It's got really nice position to it. It's going to get a really, really good hen, certainly for the first round. I'll have a look at what it produces. Pleased to have it on board. Graham's kept all its brothers and sisters. And what I'll probably do with this bird, because Graham's done me a favour, is breed from it, make a selection of the young, let Graham have some of the young, and then this bird, at the end of the year, will possibly make its way back over to Langholm. The final 5-cock bird as part of the breeding team, the 12-strong breeding team in 2017. As he was, the final bird in episode 1 is our heavily variegated blue Mauve Ring 35. Now this is another bird that has filled eggs for me, and we've got a young little blue hen off him this year. That bird is a very sweet bird. You'll recall it was a class winner at North Wales. This bird has earned his place in the stud just on that strength alone. We've got a better hen to pair him with this year. I'm hoping to breed some strong blues, and there's a chance, depending on what comes out of him, that this boy, because of his overall quality, he was a class winner too, may stay in the team for 2018. That's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget you can get in touch, info@thecanaryroom.tv. Keep up to date with Facebook and Instagram too. Until next time, take care. This is a cutaway that we'll use for the lighting piece that we're about to talk to. This is the timer switch. Now I've got a full spectrum tube in the canary room which stimulates daylight. I can't remember what I was going to say. So we know throughout the series of the canary room, we've talked the canary room.